So you probably clicked on this video because you want to know what it's like to live in Portugal, and lucky for you, apparently I have a lot to say and to describe about living in Portugal. So this is actually part 2 of a 2-part video on all the things that I could think of about living in Portugal that somebody might want to know if you're planning on moving here or you're just curious. If you haven't watched part 1, don't worry, you can still watch part 2, but don't forget to click the link in the description below to watch part 1. I'll also have a link up here if you just are dying to start with part 1 and then come back to this video for more. Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Julia and I'm an American. I've been living in Portugal since 2019. I just want to give you more of a realistic picture of what it would look like if you moved to Portugal. The food is one of my favorite things about Portugal. One thing I was really surprised about is that Portuguese cuisine is so diverse. So I've seen cultures where they eat a lot of potatoes and other cultures where they eat a lot of pasta and other cultures where they eat a lot of rice, but Portuguese people eat potatoes, rice, and pasta all on a regular basis. They have fish, they have meat, they have great produce, so vegetables and fruits. I really can't say enough good things about the food. They have tons of great dishes. And the wine, many people know that Portugal is famous for its port wine, but it also has green wine and white wine and red wine, and it's all pretty inexpensive here and really great quality. And one thing that I definitely love here is the bread and the pastries. I was so taken by when I first came here and I went to the pastry shops. When I think of pastries, I usually think of like sweet pastries, like pies and things like that. But what I really love in Portugal is that they have a whole category of savory pastries, so things with meat or fish, and it was so unique to me, and it was really nice to have a lot of different options for pastries. I absolutely love the pastries of Portugal. Another thing about food is there is a lot more cooking and a lot less fast food. Now that's not to say that you can't get fast food, but it's definitely less frequent, at least among my friends and my circle of people in Portugal. We tend to cook more. When I first came here, I was in my early 20s, and I was really surprised to see that people my age knew how to cook a lot of different dishes. It was a frequent thing to get together and cook a dinner together and eat it. It was one of the things that was really charming about the culture and really brought me in, because it's a really nice thing to make a meal together and share it. And they definitely still have fast food. They do have Uber Eats, not in every city, but even outside of Lisbon, they do have it. It's just a lot more limited options. But that being said, in Lisbon, there's like everything on Uber Eats, and you can definitely have that. One thing I really don't like is that if you moved from a country that's not in the European Union, or you want to receive a package that's not from the European Union, the cutoff for getting through duties is very low. So the value of the package that can enter Portugal without having to pay duties or extra taxes on it is very low. I don't know the exact cutoff, but somewhere around 20 euros is where you want to start getting concerned. So I once tried to ship a small package with a flashcard and a magnet in it, and so not that expensive of items. It got held up in customs in Portugal for several months. The fee to get it out of customs was more than the value of the actual items. So it just sat there in customs because we refused to pay it. And 7 months after I had sent it, it arrived back in the United States. So I would just avoid having loved ones send you stuff from outside of the EU. It's really unfortunate, but it's not worth it. And then another thing is that we don't have Amazon Prime in the same way that we have in the United States. So it was so great to get free shipping on anything for a 48-hour period, or even the Prime Now specials that they have in the United States and the Amazon lockers and all that great stuff. And they don't have that here. They do have Amazon in Europe. They don't have an Amazon Portugal, so you can use Amazon Spain or Amazon Germany, which I do use. But it's not quite the same experience, and the shipping is always longer than I'm used to. So a little frustrating, but not the end of the world. One thing I hear a lot of people say when they move to Portugal is that they love the weather, it's so warm. But I came from Texas, so I'm used to warm weather, and I actually find the winters in Portugal to be quite chilly, especially because air conditioning and heating are not as common here. So the summer can get quite hot, like 90s, like low 100s. Without an air conditioner, that's been quite a struggle, especially sleeping at night, although it does cool off a lot during night and you can leave your window open for some breezes. And then in the winter, it can get down to like 30s. So for me, that's quite cold. And if you don't have a heater to kind of take the edge off, it can be a little bit difficult. We invested in some oil radiator heater thing. I don't know the official term. Those work great and they definitely heat up, but it can also be quite damp. So it's just, I don't personally find the weather to be like a great sell because I came from a warm place, but if you came from another country in Europe, like Northern Europe, or you come from Northern America or the UK, a lot of people might find it to be very warm and beautiful in that regard. I will say there are a ton of sunny days, and if you live near the coast, it's a lot more moderate. One thing that was really strange, I didn't notice this when I was living in the United States, but when you're inside of a building, it can actually feel hotter or colder than it is outside. So in the summer, if you're inside, it can feel hotter than it is outside. And in the winter, it's even more so exaggerated. It feels like so much colder inside your house than outside your house. So I don't really know what that's about. I guess the insulation is not very good, but obviously this will depend a lot on how old the building is that you live in. And if you have heating and air conditioning, then you may not notice this that much and may not be affected by it. It really depends on where you come from. I've heard local Portuguese complain about the public transportation all the time, but I think it's great. Living in Houston, there weren't a lot of great public transportation options and they weren't as safe to use. So here I am obsessed. In Lisbon and Porto, you have a metro and it's so convenient, and you also have buses throughout the entire country. There's some train lines that go throughout the country, and there are also some intercity trains in Lisbon. I'm not 100% sure about the other cities. And there's Uber here, so there's a ton of options. You can also, of course, get a car and drive it. In Lisbon, trying to find parking seems like a huge deterrent for having a car, and with public transportation, like we don't have a car. I've lived here for 2 years without a car. There are times when it would definitely be convenient, like if you want to go to the beach or go travel around the country, you know, you could rent a car, but it would be nice to just have your own. But you can definitely manage without one, and if you are in Lisbon or Porto, it's so much more convenient to just use public transportation. Obviously, everyone's different and your experiences with people can be very different. But when I first came here, I found Portuguese people to be very welcoming, and they were very ready to talk about their country, and they were proud of their country and they liked talking about it. So I made a friend really quickly here and ended up getting a boyfriend here. So I had a good experience with the people here, and I was really excited to move here. From a longer term perspective, I've noticed some more subtle things about Portuguese people. I feel like the culture here is more modest, so people don't tend to be as flashy with the things that they have. I found that Portuguese people can be strong-willed and determined, but in a more subtle way. So I like to describe it as politely insistent. So if one of my friends wants to do a dinner and I'm just like, oh, I don't know, we'll go back and forth like 4 times and then it ends up happening. So it's strong-willed, but not in a rude way or like an overbearing way, but they're more determined on what they want to do. And another thing I really noticed, and something that's been kind of more difficult to adapt to, but I think is a positive thing actually, is that people in Portugal seem to be more focused on the group and keeping things harmonious than they are on their individual needs. So there's more of this idea about what's for the good of the group. In the United States, people tend to be more individualized, and I don't know that that's always necessarily the best thing. That's one of the things I loved about Portugal, was this focus on the group. So it attracted me, but this is something you need to consider because it's definitely a part of the culture. And that also being said, in terms of being more group focused versus being more individualized, people in general tend to be very helpful. That's something that's really great, especially if you move to a new place. So it definitely depends on who exactly you meet, but in general, I've had a really positive experience. So those are some of the experiences for me for what it's really like to live in Portugal. As I said, I've been living here for 2 years and I have friends that are both Portuguese and are foreigners like me. But if you found something different or you want to add to this, feel free to leave that in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences about living in Portugal, or what are your curiosities, anything that I didn't mention that you have a burning question about what it's like to live in Portugal. Please let me know. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for notifications. That way you'll get notified whenever I post new videos. So thanks for watching, and ciao!